We're live. G'day, g'day. Welcome to another online group session in the Inner Sanctum online sessions. I'm just seeing if we're live. Not yet, not yet. I'm sure we are.
It says meeting now streaming live.
Yeah, there you go. With our very special guest, Alan
Steinfeld.
Hello, Alan.
Hey.
Alan Steinfeld. Sorry, I was just hearing myself in my head. How are you, Alan? Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Great to be here with you. Karen. Is it Karen?
You said it. Car, like in motor car. Actually, the car body is the name the Egyptians gave to the soul. You know, you can...
Yeah, car and the ba. Yes.
The car body. It's, you traverse the universe in your car body, in your astral body, I suppose. But yeah, I was just telling Alan that, you know, I pick about 12 people each year to come in as a guest to the Inner Sanctum, which is our online groups. People that I've had on the show, and Alan was on the show last year. I think you were on the show last year. We discussed your book, and I asked the group, you know, who do you want to have on the show? And resoundingly, people said, get Alan on. So
thank you.
Alan is here, just back from Egypt, which we'll go into a little bit. But let me tell people who don't know who Alan is, I'm sure you do, a pioneer, a podcasting pioneer in the conscious spiritual movement. Alan Steinfeld is a writer, producer, television, podcast host, and speaker in the field of human potential, metaphysics, consciousness, evolution, healing, spiritual awakening, and cosmic intelligence. Alan has been involved with ET disclosure since his childhood, realizing that the only way for humanity to accept the fact that we're not alone is to shift our worldview about what we think is possible. In this way, Alan feels we must transcend old limitations of our mind and tap into what is beyond mainstream psychology, education, physics, religion, and current political ideologies. He feels that disclosure is the inside job. And when we awake to who we really are as cosmic intelligence, the cosmos will come to greet us in all our human magnificence. To this end, he feels he hosts, New Realities. I'm sure many people know about it, and many other programs on his YouTube channel and website. And it's got a slew of people that you've had on over the years: Marianne Williamson, Deepak, Ram Dass, Caroline Miss. You've spoken to them all, honey one, all of them.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. What do you want to know? Where should we start?
Well, you know what I do want to know, because we're going to talk about the future. You said you want to talk about the future rather than the past. But what I want to know, which I don't think I asked you when I had you on the show, like, what was your spiritual awakening? How did you wake up to all this stuff? Were you a kid? Because it says here you're a kid thinking about all this stuff.
No, well, I did have some strange experiences when I was a child, like sort of finding myself out of my body. Even before that, I was very restless, falling asleep. Like, you know, I never could go to sleep when the sun was still up and would lie awake. I remember like 2 or 3 years old, just not being able to, I guess if I was born later, they would have given me drugs for hyperactivity. It's a good thing it wasn't, but I was hyperactive and busy and thinking. And so when I wasn't able to fall asleep, it just occurred to me, if I close my eyes and just go into this dark space, something took me into this inner world. It was like a form of meditation. I didn't know what I was doing, but then I would go in and I started to see the white light. I started to have these strange, I guess, even samadhi type experiences, like 2 or 3. And it was kind of a deep place inside me. I figured, wow, there's just as much of an infinite universe inside of us as there is outside of us. I don't really even today understand what that means or how that's even possible, but I do feel that's true in some ways, that there is an infinite space inside the consciousness, this mind, this well, we are the universe is up. So that was kind of like, I wouldn't say a conscious realization, but it was a activation that, okay. And then, I got pretty mainstream school baseball team, Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. And, but then I started to have these, out of body experiences, and maybe occasionally a face at the window. And also there was some weird dreams. I felt like I was being pulled out of my body by maybe a negative force there, or something that was not very comfortable. That was kind of scary. And still had and not insomnia, but still restless. I'd rather stay up at night and sleep during the day, So I started to listen to like the early paranormal radio, even long before Art Bell, someone who actually inspired Art Bell. This was in the, I guess, 60s. This was Long John Nebel. Have you heard of that name?
No, wow. Yeah.
He inspired Art Bell to do his program. And this was on WOR in New York City. And then they would talk about strange things, UFOs and out of body. I remember there's some strange talk about there was an invisible bridge to the Empire State Building. I don't even know what that was about. I mean, there was some fabrication and all that, but there was some truth, and there was some really radical ideas on mainstream radio late at night. And I would stay up late at night and listen to these really out there ideas. Yeah, and the earliest conversations on UFOs, I think maybe they even interviewed Betty Hill on that show back then,
Okay.
Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
I do remember reading the article about Betty and Barney Hill. I think it's 1965. Look magazine was Elizabeth Taylor. It's actually in my book. I write this. It was a picture of Elizabeth Taylor on the cover, but I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the headline that said, I think, taken aboard a flying saucer or something. And this was the earliest public reports about the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. Do you know who they are, Karen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, so for people who don't know, they probably weren't the first abductees, but they were first to become public. And they were an interracial couple. And they didn't want any publicity because it was still controversial. But they were driving from Montreal to New Hampshire, and they had, I think it was 2 hours of missing time along their road in September 19th to the 20th. And actually, there's a road sign, I could bring it up somewhere, that says, put up by the state of New Hampshire, that says, this is where Barney and Betty Hill were taken by UFOs. It's the state of New Hampshire. It's an official state plaque. I think it's Highway Route 3 outside of Indian Head, New Hampshire. You can go there. I did a pilgrimage there. Maybe I could find it somewhere in my slides. But so that was really strange for me.
You've had Catherine. Have you spoken to Catherine, their niece or some relative?
Kathleen Martin. Yeah, no, I have talked to Kathleen Martin. Yeah. And Kathleen Martin was actually the one responsible for getting the state of New Hampshire to put up that plaque to Betty and Barney Hill. So now, with all the disclosures that's happening inside the government, have you been up to date on some of that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Neil and I had a great chat on the show all about it. Fascinating stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's finally breaking down what's been hidden for 75 years or more inside the cover-up that's been going on. That's the Air Force saying, no, there's nothing here. President saying, no, people are seeing things. Finally, it's unraveling with some whistleblowers coming through. Starting in 2017, there was a huge shift. And actually, I do have a PowerPoint about some of that. Do you want to see some of that PowerPoint?
Sure, if you want to show it. Thumbs
If
up.
I can.
Does people want to see? People want to see?
If I can find that PowerPoint, let me just see if I can find that, because I wasn't expecting to do that, but let me just see. Where is my, oh, here, my disclosure PowerPoint. All right. Okay. Let me just go through this a little bit. Okay. Can I share my screen?
I think you can. Let me just, where are we? Let me
Let me
just
just
make
see.
you co-host.
Oh, I am going live here. Yeah. All right.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Let's just see co-host.
So when you listened to the guy before Art Bell,
Yeah.
did that inspire you to want to get the messages out to the public more, like with your show, with your podcast show? I mean, were you thinking?
No, that didn't inspire me then. I was just fascinated. I had no idea about getting the message out until I had my own experience in 1987. That's in my book.
Mhm.
And so when I had my own, it wasn't even then that I wanted to get the message out. It was more, this is the most interesting phenomena to ever occur to human civilization. The fact that we are not alone in the universe, there's nothing stranger or more interesting, I think, than that. So did that inspire? Yeah, I think there's something more exciting than anything else I can think of, is the fact that we are not alone and that humanity is waking up to the fact that the lies that we've been told, that life is an accident and we're all alone in the universe and it's a freak of nature, and you know, the whole foundation of science and Darwinian science and everything that we've been told. I mean, I do believe in evolution, of course, but maybe there's life everywhere in the cosmos. I do think, and I write this in my book, Making Contact, you can get it online, go to Amazon, that life is an emergent property of creation itself, right? You can believe two things: that it's an accident or of nature or of a dead universe, or you can believe that the universe is alive, full of consciousness and life. So do you believe the dogma of scientists who would make up an excuse just because they can't explain what this thing around us we're seeing, or the possibility that we are being visited, we're not alone in the universe, and that life, this emergence of this force, is a universal factor? That's really what it comes down to. And, you know, science likes to believe they have all the answers. And if they don't have an answer, they'll make one up. I mean, they do have answers for a lot of things. Look, we're on these computers, and that's a miracle right there. So science, yes, they've done some incredible things. And where they don't know, like junk DNA, they'll say, oh yeah, there's nothing they think they don't know. A real scientist would say, well, yeah, we don't have the answer to that. But you get very few saying that they don't have the answer. They'll have a answer until someone else comes along. It's called meteorite thinking. People used to say, well, they saw a rock falling from the sky, and the science at the time say, no, it's impossible. Rocks do not fall from the sky. Until they do. Until, you know, one of my favorite books is Thomas Kuhn, Theories of Scientific Revolution, where it says anomalies create a breakthrough to a new conceptual field of science. That's basically sort of what it says. You have to look at what is the anomaly that will create a new worldview. So right now, UFOs, ETs, whatever you want to call them, it's coming into our reality, but there's no worldview that will sustain it. So this is what John Mack went through at Harvard. Do we stay attached to the old worldview and say, no, that's impossible? or do we widen our worldview and make room for something more? And I say it's up to us to decide that what we know, it's like flat earth, or like, people still believe in flat earth. I feel bad for those people because they are so taken in by, I'll probably get some negative response from the flat earthers about that. But still, if you believe that the earth is flat, then there's nothing we can do for you. But,
Shirley's cracking up.
all those old dogmas are being replaced by new dogmas, of course, because we never know the truth. But here, let me show you this slideshow here that I put together.
It's also exciting. There's so many people having this conversation on podcast shows, and I was cruising through a few of them on YouTube that I think Shirley had put in the group somebody Nolan, and I'm like, who's she talking about? I think it was Gary Nolan.
I'm going to show Gary Nolan's clip here.
Okay.
So Gary Nolan is one of the major players here. Do you see this on your screen? Do you see my slideshow there?
Yep, we got it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me just go back to presenters view. Let's see. Does that come up there like this?
Yep, we see it.
I don't know. Oh, okay. Okay. Now this quote reminds me of, this was from a Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet, but he says something that seems to remind me of this struggle that we have for disclosure, 75 years. And he says, the tremendous effort only seems to be so great because we overestimated the victory. So yeah, disclosure's on its way, but is it disclosure that's the thing? No, the victory is a great thing. It's not the victory. Yes, there's disclosure, but it's what we think we've had performed, although we were right in thinking. The great thing is that there's already something that we could put in place of the deception, meaning we've had to dig deep into our psyche to explain this phenomena. If people would have said, guess what, there's UFOs, okay, go back to work. No, because there's been this friction for the truth, we've had to take it upon ourselves to go deep into what this really means about not being alone in the universe. How is the nature of reality different? How are these beings here? Why are they here? Who are they? That's what happens when things are not just given to us. It makes us search for the answer. And the answer we search for is greater than the ones that I think that we could have got by just giving it to us. So it says, without that victory, without that, our victory would only have been a moral reaction without any further meaning as it is now. It has become an epoch. An epoch means a period in time. So we are at this period in human history where the old lies are fading away. The old concepts of reality are fading away because we have worked for 75 years to create an epoch that is based on the resistance to the fabricated lies. Does that make sense? Shirley, you're nodding your head. What do you say about that? I'm just curious. Wait, unmute yourself, please. Yes. Unmute some.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
So it just reminds me of, takes me back to Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. So if these new paradigms or epochs you're saying are coming into being, some societies, some leaders want us to adopt them, then it needs to appeal to our meaning as human beings.
Yeah, tell me about Viktor Frankl a little bit. What is his search for meaning? What is his basic thesis?
Viktor Frankl was a prisoner of war during World War II, had everything taken from him, family, wealth, everything. And he was a psychiatrist who developed logotherapy. And so I paraphrase, I can't remember his exact words, but basically he said, you could take away everything, but the one thing you cannot take away from me is how I choose to evaluate the situation, what I choose for it to mean to me. And so so today, people were freaking out around me with, coming to a realization that there are so many untruths, and I was happy. Like I'm happy. So this here, it's what does it mean to me? What does it mean to me?
What does this, so if we take that idea and the fact that we had to search for meaning beyond the lies the government was telling us.
Yes.
And because we had to search for meaning, we went much deeper than what an official narrative would have been. Is that something like that you're saying?
Well, I'm a person who lived closeted, like in I guess with agoraphobia for 2 or 3 years before COVID hit. So I was well versed in staying home, and there was no reason for me to go out. It was scary, and that wasn't acceptable to me. That was not who I had been. And so I needed to understand that. And rather than just accept it and fade away, I found this group. And it's been a hoot, to tell you quite honestly. And I don't want to go as far as to say a lifesaver, but it's been a life changer, because I can explore. And I laughed when you talked about the flat earthers, because who the heck knows? I don't know. I just embrace it all and love it all, and basically I just enjoy all the theories. I don't know what that
But
makes.
what does that have to do with this deception that we've been under? And how did that, because I'm really trying to, this quote caught my attention, because I knew there was something about the lies that has pushed us forward, but how does that mean something to you in a sense?
It means something to me in that I identified with Pollyanna. Everything was joyful and lovely. I trusted everyone and everything. And then it all got blown away, which happens to many people. And now I don't want to say I don't care. I'm just not concerned. I'm not concerned about the lies, because I create my own reality. And I've had a near-death experience, and I've been consciousness, and I've looked down at the human me, and I was not her. Oh, that was a person having an experience, and I knew that I was not that person. I lived in that shell. So it's not important anymore to worry about the narratives or the fears that people want to drive into me. And it's free.
Right.
And that's
I
my
get that.
I don't
Well,
need
no,
government.
that helps me create my thesis around disclosure. Okay, I will continue. Thank you.
Thanks,
Oh,
Lily.
So this is part of the cover up, which was intact until Gary Nolan spilled the beans, and I'll get to that way. Here, this is an organization, Arrow, the Advanced Aerial Resolution Office. Arrow, that's the new office that is investigating UFOs by the Pentagon. This is the Pentagon's response. Arrow has not discovered any valid information to substantially claim any programs regarding the possession of reverse engineering of extraterrestrial material. This is what came out in the recent hearings, that the government did have extraterrestrial craft, and now Arrow has I guess I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me go back. Oh, here's New Realities. This is my logo. This is my book. And I'll get back to and this is a collection of essays by people I call the best and brightest in the field, including an essay, previous unpublished essay by John Mack. He's featured in the new Encounter series on Netflix on Aerial School. Has anyone seen that on Netflix?
Yeah, I've seen
Excellent,
it. Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Alan? Yeah, watch the whole
Yes,
thing.
I think that was the best. There's a movie out about the aerial school, and there's been lots of stuff about the aerial school. This is the one in Rwanda where 62 children saw this UFO land and the beings come out. But the one on Netflix, the Encounter series, I think does the best job about that. Anyway, John Mack was a key component in this disclosure field, even though he's no longer around, but he is his commentary about worldviews and opening to new possibilities as a psychiatrist and interviewing people who had these encounters and said these people are not crazy. And so he's a really key figure. But let me go to what this do you want to see a little promo for my book here?
Yeah, go on.
All right. Now that, okay. I mean, we are going live, so people on my channel have probably seen this before, but here we go.
From deep in outer space, to the planet Earth, to the red rocks of Sedona, to our online community here, comes a time, a message, a special series.
There is no better time for making contact. I'm George Norrie, host of the national radio show Coast to Coast AM. Alan Steinfeld has put together a well-conceived collection that covers it all.
Thanks, George, for that introduction. This is Alan Steinfeld.
It's always nice to get an introduction by the master himself, George Norrie. Sorry.
Steinfeld, the editor and author of Making Contact, which is a collection of writings of the best and brightest people in the field of ufology. The Making Contact series, which is now being rebooted to...
Oh yeah, I did have a whole series based on my book, so that's what I'm promoting here. You can still find it if you, but you can still find it somewhere. Okay, wait, let me see. Okay, here we go. Oh no, wait, no, here we go. Let me go back.
Comprised of many of the authors in this book, as well as a few other experts. Making Contact is a series that tells viewers what's really going on with UFOs, because the people that are supposed to know do not. Certainly not presidents and other government officials.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
That says nothing except the fact that finally people are allowed to talk about the fact that they don't know what's going on. Now, this is John Brennan, former CIA director, who says,
phenomena that we're seeing could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life.
So a lot of these people are now going to be called before Congress in 2024 because these are the gatekeepers. These are the ones keeping the secret. And now that Congress knows that there's been a secret, the people have had the secret, hopefully there's something called the Schumer Amendment is going to require these gatekeepers to come forward. Now, Avril Haines is Avril Haines is also someone who's in the know, who doesn't want to say much.
Of course, there's always the question of, is there something else that we simply do not understand everything that we're seeing?
I know what you've seen is what those Navy pilots saw in 2004, and there have been...
No one wants to say the A word, alien. It's just like, oh, there's stuff out there, but no one's talking about who's actually behind the craft. So at least they're talking about it.
some 300 sightings since then, and I've talked to those pilots, and they know they saw something, and their radar's locked onto it. And then all of a sudden it was here on the surface, and then it's there. And they don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is.
No one knows what it is. This is nothing Russia or China. The only countries and the US are capable of having that kind of technology. So yeah, something is here. It's in our airspace and it's been here for a long time, but the structures of government are finally cracking.
But the UFO ET experts highlighted in this 6-part series do know what's going on. Here's an introduction by one of the top researchers in the field, Linda Moulton Howe asking the big question.
Actually, I want to tell people listening to this YouTube channel, I am interviewing Linda tomorrow in a live interview at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have questions for Linda, because I think she is really the top of the UFO investigation field. So Linda Moulton Howe, really a great friend, great researcher, brilliant person. This is what she has to say.
Why do any extraterrestrial civilizations have vested interest in humans on Earth and Earth life here?
That's what she's going to be talking about. So let me just go here.
That's a great question, Alan. Why do you think? What's your answer to that question? What do you think?
Well, it's like why you do your thing here, why there's people on the show, because we're all connected. Consciousness is one. So, if you've gone into a room after someone's had an argument, you know, or like the wars going on around on the planet now are affecting everyone. Well, our little corner of the universe and all its disturbance is actually affecting consciousness throughout the cosmos. And we are disruptive, we are violent, we're not in control of our emotions, so it's like our disturbance is calling the attention of others to see, why can't we live in harmony, universe, one verse, one harmony? Is that possible? And the more, the attention since 1947, since the dropping of the atom bomb, was a call, I think, to the rest of the cosmos for support that, it's like the teenagers have the car keys. We better check that out because there's a lot of disruption there. So so here's Nick Pope. He's also good. I want to get to some of the current stuff. JJ and Desiree Hertog. I like those guys. This is what they have to say. I do a lot of work with JJ and Desiree.
JJ Hertog.
We have to recognize that we are a microcosm of the mind of the universe. And we're seeing right now really the redefinition of scientific ontology, the recognition that we are a consciousness life form that connects with many dimensions, and that in this process, we're going to go beyond Einsteinian science to future science, or science guided by consciousness. And so this is really the beginning of a whole new page of evolution, recognizing the human evolution is indeed connected with what we call a higher evolution.
And Dr. Desiree Hertog.
That there seems to be, we'll say, portals opening, veils lifting, and we ourselves, in our own personal realities, maybe in dream states, are having some of these experiences and getting ourselves soul-wise and conscious-wise prepared for contact.
Right,
Next.
because many things are happening.
Alan, I just wanted to say to you, I had a woman on the show this week called Uga Carlini in South Africa, who's just spent 40 years making a documentary about Elizabeth Clara. Have you heard about Elizabeth Clara?
Oh, I actually saw that film recently because JJ's in that film.
JJ's in the film. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah, so I have heard of her, and I actually didn't think I thought she could have made a different sort of this. She kind of doubts Elizabeth Clara's story in that film.
She does. She does.
I thought that wasn't fair because I do think her story is true, and she kind of puts a lot of doubt in there. And I don't know. I think if she says she went to another planet and had a child with an alien, I know that's out there, but why not?
Why not? Exactly. Anyway, go on.
You're right.
Go on.
No, but so many things are happening now. People are having more encounters. There seems to be more craft in the sky. And we're entering the age of Aquarius, where Uranus rules Aquarius. And that is a planet of extraterrestrial. That is a planet that takes us beyond the Earth. The Uranian energies that are coming into our consciousness now opens us up this age of Aquarius opens us up to other realms. So the vibration of the planet shifting, I mean, you don't have to believe in astrology to believe that something new is happening. I think COVID itself made people question everything. It's really a time for something new and different. There's no normal anymore. And so the gatekeepers that had tried to keep a lid on just go to work, do what you're told, that has shifted in the last 3 years. So that's why I go and talk to these people investigating. This movie, Tear in the Sky by Carolyn Corey, is also another kind of opening.
1,000% that advanced civilizations have a technology. They know how to transport themselves from point A to point B faster than the speed of light. Boom, through these nodes, these points within space, these coordinates.
These tears in the sky, you're saying.
That's what she proves in her movie. She shows actually a wormhole where these ships start to come into our atmosphere from nowhere. It's a rip in time and space that these things appear. It's really worth seeing that film.
Is that her?
Travis Taylor.
Could be a portal or a wormhole or some massive energy
This
source.
guy is great. I interviewed him. You know, he's famous on Skinwalker, right?
Even a gravitational field. Those sound like far-off ideas to me. But we know that there's something strange going on up there. And
so there's an interdimensional element to the UFO phenomena. That's what this guy is saying, and to the Skinwalker in general. Let's just see. I also want to show this. This is one of my favorite sections here I interviewed Linda about a year or so ago.
Look at the history of this planet is demonstrably one in which Homo sapiens sapien is abused. Because from my point of view, if you are a civilization that evolves for 12,000 years, and you are always under the thumb of another intelligence that manipulates you, and that humans are never, ever talked to, communicated honestly, then we are today in the 21st century, 12,000 years later. We are an abused species, and that I would stress there are other intelligences, and they really care about us, and they want us to get past this difficult time of lies, deception by other forces that have never told humans the truth.
Right. So that's where we're at now. If we are constantly being lied to, it's breaking down. And it is an abuse. I mean, why are these people inside Pentagon? It's not for national security. I think it's a lot more greedy than that. There's people inside these armed services that have taken their own liberties with the technology and maybe sold it to private industry. I don't know, but the cover-up is uncovering. Anyway, also, this Whitley Strieber is actually the best writer in the subject. He's also in this book.
Whitley Strieber.
What's here, the presence that's here, is extremely complex. It has many different aspects. You can't say they're good guys or bad guys.
Now, that's the other thing. The government doesn't know how to really talk to us because they don't understand the phenomena. We're dealing with something beyond the linear mind. That's what's so valuable about Whitley's story and testimony.
It's not a Buck Rogers movie. It is a real experience, and with an extremely intellectually sophisticated, knowledgeable, morally complex presence that has a significant physical component, as well as a lot of technology to support its presence in the physical world, but is also arrayed equally consciously in a whole lot of different levels of reality that we don't even know exists.
So it's not just a matter of, oh, we have some visitors here. Their presence shifts the fundamental nature of our reality. it's like their mindset, the vibration of their capacity of reality is so drastically different than ours. It's like, you know, there's that story of the Native Americans looking at the ships coming into shore and not be able to see them because they never seen anything like them before. So we're like that. We've never seen anything like what is coming to us. We may have pictures of little aliens. We may do all, none of that really describes the situation that we are about to encounter. It's just a story. It's a myth. It's a fabrication, because the actuality, and I write about the actuality in my book, in my chapter, is so different than the imaginational projections. Okay, just one more little piece.
And number 5,
that's
Starseed Revolution.
Okay, let me just. That's Mary Rodwell, who I'm sure you know, Karen, right?
Yeah, I love Mary.
She's there in Australia, isn't she?
Yeah. Mary's done a few sessions, like group sessions in my house. And,
right. I don't have John what's his name? John Ramirez in this book, but I do think he said some very
changing inside the government.
The government is aware that there's more to this than just.
Now, this guy's an ex-CIA guy who's no longer with the CIA, but is now coming out and give his own views, because he's actually an experiencer as well.
Wow.
Structured craft flying around in our terrestrial domain. Not only that, they also recognize that they operate in domains other than space, other than our atmosphere, and other than in our seas. I think that opens up that area called the interdimensional hypothesis, that they may be coming to us not only extraterrestrially, but interdimensionally.
Now that's big, because how do we explain interdimensionality? Well, we don't even understand it ourselves. So, you know, the Pentagon, all those people are just after weapons, but we will never understand their weapons. We'll never understand how to reverse engineer until we understand how these beings think, and they think interdimensionally. So let me just move on here to this guy interviewed, very interesting guy here. He's an experiencer. He had interactions with, his name is Tintakal, and he had interactions with ETs, and this is what he says.
The big power groups on this planet actually came together, and they discussed how they are going to shift the reality so that their interest is actually secured. But there are also ET civilizations that are also involved with what's going on. There are interfrequential influences, like higher frequential beings that are taking care that everything turns out very well. But then they came up with the solution that what they called independent field operator status, which is basically people like me, for example, that feel this very strong inner motivation to offer something, that they are released into the public, and they still all fall under the umbrella of easy deniability, which means everyone can still reject or not reject the reality, whatever they resonate with. So
this is like the church being confronted with the flat earth, in a sense. Yeah. And the earth being the center of the universe. For, hundreds of years, it was upheld that the earth was, suddenly someone comes along and says, no, guess what? The earth is one of many planets. The sun is the center. And so this throws everyone's ideas off. So there are gatekeepers keeping reality intact until there's enough stress on the system that says, no, we want the truth. Like, so
well,
that
was actually a question I was going to pose you about,
yeah.
Do you think that they've kept it under wraps because our ideologies, our religion especially, would just collapse and people would go crazy and start rioting? I mean, that's the narrative, isn't it?
People are not going to go crazy. And start, No, but that's the myth. That's the lie. I think people will be shocked, but it's about time we have a rude awakening.
Yeah.
So in July, and there, no one's going crazy because
No one's going crazy.
UFOs are here.
Kristen's got a great question here, which does anyone know the name of the 25 or 50-year treaty that was between world governments and the extraterrestrials to keep it all quiet until they had made us regular citizens ready to believe that they're here?
Well, I don't know if that's even a reality. Some people say Eisenhower signed a treaty with the ETs in 1952. That may or may not be true, but I don't know. I don't see any proof of that, but it might be this. But this goes back to the beginning of the lie here, July 6, 1947. The Roswell Daily Record says Air Force captures flying saucer. It was actually the Army, didn't have an Air Force. But then the very next day, the Army debunks Roswell flying disc. So immediately the cover-up was in place 1947, so but then just recently we get this whistleblower, David Grush, coming forward, and this is what shook the world up.
Bombshell claims from a military whistleblower. UFO wreckage recovered by the U.S. kept classified by a secret government program for decades. Tonight, a world television exclusive you will only see on News Nation. Welcome to Elizabeth Vargas Reports.
Okay, let's just get to Grush himself. Now, this guy, Ross Coulter, you know him? He's Australian too, isn't he?
He was an Australian 60 Minutes mainstream journo. And the fact that he's come out with all this is just explosive, because the 60 Minutes crew just love to make fun at anyone talking about ETs or aliens, like that mainstream narrative that if you talk about this stuff, you're crazy. So the fact that he has that reputation of being with 60 Minutes and some of the biggest, mainstream media outlets in Australia kind of gives him.
But he broke the story, Ross, for the world with this guy who is an intelligence officer, and he got him to talk.
I'm on the UAP task force.
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
Now that was earth-shattering. That admission by David Grush was the first time publicly anyone inside the government has ever acknowledged that presence. So that was a game changer, and still is. We're still getting upshots from that. So, and Ross broke that story.
And Aussie, woohoo!
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
Grush alleges...
So what it is so he was tasked with investigating the phenomena, and then he was denied access to the investigation. So he was in charge of investigating, and then people inside the government said, wait, you can't investigate that. So he had people who had NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that they weren't allowed to talk about this, come to him and say, guess what? There is something here. And he doesn't have firsthand knowledge, but he talked to over 30 or 40 people who came forward and say, yes, the government has crash retrievals and they have alien bodies. And everyone said, what? So here's a little more. Let's just go.
The American public has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
This is what Linda Moulton Howe is getting at. We are an abused race because we are lied to by people who are working for us. At least in the U.S., we elect people and then they lie to us. I mean, because so, but of course, this is about people who are not elected. This is being held by the military-industrial complex, which is what Eisenhower warned people against in 1960 when he left office. So just a little bit more here.
Saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone.
We knew that, Karen, but most of the world did not know that. And that was such a bombshell. That was the bombshell. Finally, it's said in public. Wait, here's a little more here.
This up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Alan, did you
because
get
everybody watching this right now?
What's that?
Did you get the whole interview, the News Nation whole interview? Because I noticed that they only put up snippets on it on their own channel.
Well, there's about 9 minutes here. I don't know. I think there is the whole interview somewhere, but Grush has come out in other platforms. He also was at the Senate hearing. But here, listen to this last part here.
Is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Now that's the key. Who, and this is the key to the whole question of disclosure, who is threatening people inside the military about coming forward? This is what I'm going to talk to Linda Moulton Howe about tomorrow. He's at professional and personal risk. Isn't that just shocking that someone with the truth is being threatened because he has the truth? I mean, how do you excuse that? I mean, so, and then I wanted to also show you the Gary Nolan thing a little bit, but any questions about, that's why this is the most exciting thing I think that anyone could deal with, the fact that, finally, what we've been waiting for is now on our doorstep there. It's coming up. So any question about that at all?
Yeah, I think Kristen wanted to say something. Do you want to come on camera, honey? One thumbs up. Thumbs up. Add to spotlight. Disclosure is happening. Yeah, I've unmuted you. Disclosure is happening on every level. We're being disclosed about UAPs and UFOs and alien life in the cosmos, and the history disclosure and the cover-up disclosure and the corruption disclosure, but the multidimensional disclosure as well, who we are as multidimensional, infinite intelligence, psychic, beings that can do all this stuff, infinite intelligence. Kristen, what did you want to say, honey?
Well, just I come from this belief that we actually knew this and we hung out with them and we worked with them or something, and somebody came in and rewrote the history or took that out of our memory, or a couple generations later it was wiped away. And I don't know if this is 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 500 years ago, I don't know, but you see it in artwork. You can see it in the artwork that's all over medieval artwork, that there's starships and things like that. And you see it in the carvings in Egypt, and you see it in Samaria around the same time, the way that these beings look all over the world. But I just want to know, why is it taken away? That's what I believe. I believe we had it and it was taken away. And we believe because we remember.
Well, I think it was taken away because there were forces that came in that wanted to control who we are as humans, our own creativity, our own genius, because there's power control, manipulators of power, and they want that power in their hands. Like, why do people want power? I don't understand it, but they do. So it was taken away from us. I'm pretty sure it was. And now it's time to reclaim that because everything is changing. It's time, the times they are changing. So yeah, it's why did they take it away from us? That is, why is there good and evil, dark and light? I mean, it's the yin and the yang. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why that exists, but it does. And maybe it's to make us stronger. Maybe it's to make us fight for our efforts there,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it comes to to me, I think of, maybe the pendulum was so far one way for a while, it's swinging the other way, the disclosure's coming out, but I want to know who's holding that pendulum. I want to know who's pulling those strings. And
well,
I don't think our
we are.
government's the only one.
We are pulling the strings. We've been challenged ourselves. Why do we have dramas in our lives to challenge us, to make us, it's that whole thing. But I think because we're coming into a new age, because the vibration is shifting its frequency, we're getting awakening from the matrix that has been kept in place. Like, Bruce Lipton says, the Matrix is not a fictional film, it's a documentary, the original Matrix. So it's like we are waking up out of the Matrix, and that Matrix is in place because, I mean, why do people go to war? Why do they're homeless on the streets? Why are there, the awful things happening? Because there's something out of balance here. And, knowing the truth and putting it all back into perspective, maybe it gives us more value, maybe understands ourselves a little better. I don't know. Let me just continue with disclosure a little bit, but those are all great questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Raoul, did you want to come on camera? Oh, I've lost you now.
Yeah. All right. I'm open to any questions. Absolutely. Okay. Let me just.
Raoul had something he wanted to say. I trust our Star family more than I trust the government.
He trusts who?
The Star family more than he trusts government here.
Yeah, but who's to say who the Star family is? I mean, everyone has their own interpretation of the Star family. But here, let me just go here. Okay, this is Gary Nolan. He's an immunologist at Stanford. He's really one of the people in on the inside job here. And one of the things he said before he even ever talked about disclosure was that their DNA seems to be 9 billion years old, while the Earth is only 4 billion years old. So already he was thinking outside the box, what that means. So now we go.
I love this guy because, he's like lecturing at Stanford University, something that is
But
revered.
the big thing, this was even before Grush came up. He was at this thing called the Salt Talks in New York, which was a high and big conference. And he was asked this question.
I'm curious, do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?
I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time, and it's still here. And it has basically...
that raised a few eyebrows in the audience.
Love it.
People talk about the wow signal, looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. The wow signal is that people see it on an almost regular basis. That's the communication that's already here.
People see UFOs on an almost regular basis, and that's true. If you ever go out with night vision goggles, you go out to a place without a lot of light pollution, you see these things. And I was just out there in Sedona. I was looking through night vision goggles and I saw this triangle and I thought, oh, maybe that's just a flare or something. While I was looking at this up facing triangle, turned its direction down. And it's like, oh my God, this stuff is real. Like, oh, there really is stuff out there. So now this guy who's asking the question says, let me just go back to.
And that statement seems so incredible that it's tough to believe, right?
this guy is saying, oh my God, what did you just say? It's tough to believe. So he comes with a little follow-up question that's just equally fun.
People hear that, and maybe a lot of people here hear that, and they don't believe it. And so,
like that guy.
Curious. If you had to assign a probability to that statement, that you believe extraterrestrial intelligence has visited this planet, what probability would you assign?
100%. And that's not just my opinion.
100% probability. He's a scientist. There is no 100% probability unless you have absolute facts. He wouldn't say that unless he absolutely knew. 100% probability. Look at that guy's face. He doesn't get it. He's like the rest of the world saying, oh my God, what are you saying? It's, we're used to this, Karen. We've been around this. We get it. There's things happening. Some people it's like waking up. It's like, what are you saying? How is that possible?
It's an exciting time. It's breaking paradigms, and it's an exciting time because you first go into disbelief, and then you go into confusion because your whole worldview starts to change. And in that place of confusion, you're swimming around in questions and what ifs, and then you kind of like go, whoa, and you sort of come out into the light and go, maybe what I knew as truth is not true. It's an exciting time, and that's happened to all of us, right? But it's happening on a global level now. It's happening globally.
It's so exciting that I think it's the most exciting thing that happened in human history that has happened. So we are in a game-changing time. We're in a moment where humanity, and I think it's our only hope for the future. We are digging ourselves into a deep, deep hole with wars and corporate greed and social media and all the things that AI, whatever you think is going on. I mean, I don't think AI is completely bad, but I think, we have to balance. But this thing is so outside the box that it gives us a little bit of hope here. That let me just go here, presentation. So Gary Nolan also says this. Let me just move this thing over. Let's see.
And that statement
seems
seems so.
Just go here.
And that's not just my opinion. I mean, look, the National Defense Appropriation Act, passed last year, signed by Biden in December. 30 pages of that is the establishment of an unidentified aerial phenomenon office, the establishment of looking into the harm that's happened to any of a number of the individuals, going back to 1945 and looking at the disinformation and misinformation that has been basically articulated over the decades. 12 US senators have signed on to a document that basically says we want the information. The establishment of an office, Arrow, in the Department of Defense, has 25 people working in it right now. And what's their goal? Collecting the information across all of the U.S. Department of Defense intelligence offices, and collation of that into a uniform format for the very first time, and provision of that then to Congress, the creation of a whistleblowers program specifically.
That's what we're talking about with the guy we just saw before, Grush, the whistleblowers program, which allows people with NDAs, means like they would be put in jail if they broke their agreement with the government, to come forward. So this whistleblower program allows people to break their NDAs in part to talk to inspector generals first and not talking to the public, but that's all being worked out as more and more of these whistleblowers talking to people in Congress.
Those people from within, who I'm going to say this, who've been working on the reverse engineering programs, reverse engineering of objects, so that they can come in and break their oaths, but it's specifically just to talk to Congress and give that information in classified settings. And that the most recent one that happened was just last weekend, and it created quite a hornet's nest in Washington.
Now that hornet's nest was that guy we had just seen, Grush. That was the hornet's nest he's talking about. But there's one more thing I want to show you, and just as far as this discussion, and this is what they call the Schumer Amendment. Chuck Schumer is a Senate person from New York. He's actually the head of the Senate. I think he's like now the Senate head, and he's putting something called the Schumer Amendment out here that specifically addresses disclosure. Let me just bring this up for a second here. And that, but it's not passed yet, but I think it will be. Let me see, where is the Schumer Amendment?
So, Alan, next year they're going to do another Congress
Yes.
like they had with David Grush, and that will
Yes.
be exciting because there were a lot of questions that weren't answered in the first Congress.
Oh, well, most of them weren't. So this is an amendment called the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure. The disclosure is actually in the law itself.
What?
So you can see here, this was put out by Schumer and Rubio, who's a Republican. Schumer's a Democrat. So this breaks party lines. And Gillibrand, another senator from New York. And so this is an amendment that, if it's signed, goes into law that says, let me just see, let me find non-human intelligence is a subject in here. Non-human. Let me see, non-human. It's a long amendment. I mean, you could read through it. Here, this is number 5. The term controlling authority means any federal, state, or local government department, agency, committee, commission, commercial company. These are the private industry people who have access to reverse engineering, technology origins. They have to come forward with biological evidence. If they have technology or bodies inside the government or outside the government, this amendment makes it law that they have to come forward and reveal that. Whether they will or not, we'll see. But that's the law. And that, I mean, I don't know what that means. It's the law, but a lot of people don't care about that. So so that's it. Non-human is mentioned 22 times here. Non-human, Schumer's thing, the term non-human, and this is a Senate bill, means any sentient, intelligent, non-human life form. They're saying this in the congressional record. This is what's a breakthrough in our time, in our day and age. Who talked about non-human intelligent sentience before this year, 2023? 2024, we might actually, I don't know if we'll see the bodies, but we're going to, I think, have proof in 2024. It's a life form, not of Earth. This gets rid of Darwinian theory as being evolution as a freak of nature. This is the game changer. And yes, it's slow, drip, 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 leak, 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 drawn out. But we, as Grant Cameron says, the ball is being moved down the field. Whether or not they move the goalposts, we'll see. But the ball is being moved down the field towards a touchdown, which means, so the term technologies of unknown origins means any material or metamaterial ejecta. That means there's stuff that somehow falls off the crash debris. I mean, Schumer's well aware of what people are saying. This bill doesn't come out of a vacuum. It comes out of the testimony of whistleblowers now in secret hearings coming into law. And again, I don't know what that means, law, because people, don't follow that. But anyway, at least it's here. Engineering modes, damage intact aerospace vehicles, damage to ocean, undersea craft. This is every unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, or the incorporating science, technology that lacks. Anyway, whatever's coming here is they're not filling up their gas tank to get here. What is the technology? What will bring us off of fossil fuels, our addiction to fossil fuels and destroying the earth and digging things up? The technology exists because they track these things. It's not propulsion. Do you know what fossil fuel is based on? The use of it's based on Newtonian science, which is 400 years old. We are running our world on 400-year-old science. We have, yes, we talk about quantum realms, and all that, but we don't have the science or the technology. It's starting to actually run our world on quantum technology, but obviously these ships do. And that's the big cover up. I don't think it's so much government. I think it's fossil fuel industry, corporate greed that is paying off politicians and who knows what else to keep this secret, because that's forget aliens. Yeah, it's great aliens here, but changing the addiction to fossil fuels and say, imagine if everyone had free energy, we would not be enslaved, to work. I mean, maybe we wouldn't have to work. Maybe we could do what we really came here to do. You know what that is?
What's that? Evolve,
but to create. This is my
create. Yeah.
To be creators.
A few years ago, Alan, I had a young girl who had a parallel universe experience where she found herself in a parallel universe of Earth, where back in the late 40s, 47, 50s, disclosure happened. Like they didn't cover it up in this parallel universe. And so she was in the year, I think it was 2017, 2018, I was talking to her, and it was this really beautiful modern society. There was no money, everything was free. Like the world was completely different in parallel Earth because disclosure happened back then. So so we're at that point now where now disclosure's happening. What's going to happen in 10, 20 years? Like, what's our society going to look like?
Well, it can only get better. Imagine we could cultivate the deserts. We could feed the world. I mean, I'm just looking at the chat now. Oh, okay. Link to, Jesse Michael. Yeah, Michelle. Yeah, he had a good interview with Grush. That's the only interview he ever did with Jesse Michaels. He does. There's a film out now on YouTube, 7 Days with Grush. We'll watch the replay. But hey, let's get Congress. What's going on? Congress is saying what? The Pentagon's been lying to us. What? We've been lying to the American people. I think 2024 is really the year of disclosure. I mean, people have been saying this for a long time, but this was a kind of a prelude to disclosure. People saying, well, Grush is making this up, but he's not. He's an intelligence officer. He's very sincere. And yes, we're breaking through the gaslighting. Yeah. And even Obama saying, well, there are things out there. I mean, some people knew, but mostly I think even people inside government were being kept from the truth. And it's all breaking. So this is only symptomatic of what someone said before, that everything's changing. Imagine if we did have free. Imagine if you had a little thing in your apartment or house that just let you plug into all your things, and then, all those electric companies would be out of business, all those gas stations, all that. But again, of course, people would make bombs with that. A free energy bomb would be, so we have to change our vibration, get out of our that lower level
limitation. Susan S on YouTube says here, we need a consciousness technology revolution, more of it. Yeah, that's what we're going through too. Consciousness, evolution, revolution, and more of it. Because to be able to understand these beings from other places in the cosmos, we need to change our level of consciousness, our level of understanding of who we are.
I mean, I don't want to get controversial, but the war in the Middle East, it's a no-win situation. I mean, no one's talking. I mean, they should have been talking for 30 years, and this problem's been brewing, and we need people to talk to each other instead of wiping each other out. I know it's awful, but, I'll
tell you something really interesting about that. I've got a friend here in Sydney who works for a Jewish company that puts on events for the Jewish community in Sydney and Israel. She flies over to Israel quite often. She's got family over there. And what she was telling me, we did a prayer for peace with a group of us yesterday with what's happening in Israel. But I'm going to interview her later on today, because I think that what she has to say is really important. That she was saying that the Jewish community are more galvanized, they're more unified than they've ever been. They're coming together all across the world, throwing money and aid and solutions into Israel. And she said that in Israel, there was a lot of divide amongst the community of Israel with, hating this politician, that politician. I said, it sounds a bit like Australia and the States. Everyone's, in divide. And this war has just brought them all together. They've put aside all their differences to be there for aid. So there is good.
But where's the war go? What the war is not the solution, though, to the problem.
The war is not the solution. But remember the movie, but The Day the Earth Stood Still, the one with Keanu Reeves. Well, they made the original. Yeah. There's a statement in that where the scientist says, don't give up on humanity, because he wants to wipe humanity off the planet because they're killing the planet. We need to save the planet, so we need to kill the humans. And they said, don't give up on humanity. It's when humanity is at the precipice that we change. And I remember seeing that like 20 years ago, saying, no, need to be at the precipice.
There's a war going on now. How do we get out of, maybe John Lennon was right. Imagine no countries, no religion.
Right.
I keep coming back to that. It's these divisions.
Yeah.
Like I'm different than you. That's what creates, and the belief systems that go around and make people different. And then, I am an imagined type of person. And I think that's the future of the planet. And that's where maybe free technology that will let us live in peace is the answer. And that's why the UFO question is so crucial at this time. It'll get us away from a war economy, which is like the biggest, thing in the US. I mean, that's what Michael Moore brought out in that Bowling for Columbine movie. It's like, why is war such a big thing? Because it's a money maker. So anyway, we're in the middle of it now. We have to see our way through the end and come to a peace. And I don't know the answer, but I do think a technological revolution can only help all of humanity find what they're really here for. Like I said before, to be creators of arts, of music, of things that bring joy. I know that's very idealistic and there's really hard, cold truth, but I'm trying to look at the big picture and see, I think the ETs are waiting for us to grow up. That's why they come and go. And then you say, did I see something? Did I not? But because we have to come to this on our own somehow. We have to find some place in ourselves to go into this next dimensional reality. So I don't know, what is your people here on the chat saying?
Yeah, I'm sure people have a lot to say. Thanks, Mark. Mark's posted a couple of links. One, as you said, Alan, to the David Grush interview with Jesse Michaels, which is fantastic. And also with the Yes Theory guys. I love the Yes Theory guys. Have you seen that one with David Grush?
It's really good. There's some real, that's what Grush says. He expects a presidential hearing on 2024 about the whole thing. And I think he's someone who knows. So yeah. What, Mark, you had a question, Mark?
Yeah, I'll bring you up, Mark. You want to come on camera, darling one? You're up.
Yeah.
You're on. Yeah,
wait, unmute.
I've unmuted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. I just wanted to comment. Thank you for being here, Alan. And I wanted to raise the comment about John Lennon and the Imagine song. And particularly, he said, imagine no heaven above and no hell below. And in my own experience, I'm seeing an integration of what's just called heaven and earth, learning to experience the human version that's in the world beyond and the human version that's still here, and an integration of those two versions. I think that's the ultimate destiny of who we are going to be, and our full potential will be found in that integration. And I think that's where the ET connection will fully be understood. So I just
I
wanted
agree.
to,
No, I want to just say one thing. Yeah, no heaven above, no hell below. Everyone living for today. That's the key to getting rid of heaven and hell, living for today. And how do you live for today? By really enjoying this planet and everything it has to offer as a Garden of Eden. We are in the garden. We've just removed ourselves, but this is one of my favorite planets. It really is. And there's so much diversity and abundance and possibility that we are abusing that too. And, we just have to become the nature, integrate nature. These bodies are made of earth. These are our earth suits, and they are beautiful like the rest of the planet. And we have to make peace with our bodies and with the earth and each other.
Alan,
right?
Alan, you say this is one of your favorite planets. What are the other favorite planets?
Well, interdimensionally, every planet that there's life on has its own beauty, purple sunsets and all. But it's all here. What's here is everywhere, and what's not here is nowhere. Hey, Don, good to see you again. How you doing? You have anything to say about this?
Do you want to come up on camera?
Alan. I just love hearing you, Alan. Thank you. Nothing else to say. I love it.
No, but thank you, Don. But it's so exciting that we are at the precipice of history. We are about to shift gears where the clutch is down, we're moving it into fourth, and we're getting a little kickback there because it's not like a smooth transition. And but we are changing gears. And when you go up a gear, it just gets a little smoother. We've been, if you're riding in third and you're going towards fourth, it's like you're straining the engine because, and I love driving stick shift because it makes driving more fun. And so, and you learn stuff. It's like, and we're at that point, we are shifting gears, but we're not fully there and we're not fully out. And we just are in between, and it's not a simple thing. The gears are scratching and all that. And some people want to stay in the lower gear because it's easier that way.
New Visions Arts here on your channel says fascinating conversation full of multiple credible sources. So he's loving it. Sorry, you say, Alan, what?
No, I just say, how are we going to collectively raise the vibration to a new reality? That's why I call my show New Realities, because
great title, fabulous title. Yeah.
Right. But what does that mean? You know what it means, Karen? It means we have yet to cognize what the world can be. You know the difference between recognition and cognition? I talk about this in my remote viewing class. What do you think the difference between recognition and cognition is? Or anybody?
Well, for my recognition would be to understand something. Cognition would be to feel it, to know it, to experience it.
Well, yeah. Recognition means to recognize. So you need the cognition to recognize it. How do you get cognition is the whole step to learning. You cognize something like when you're a child, your mother shows you a picture of a horse, and like you get the pattern recognition of that's a horse, and suddenly you see a horse there in the field and you go, oh my God, I recognize the pattern. So we need to have new fields of cognition. So the UFO thing is unrecognizable because it's never been cognized within the culture. So what this thing that we're doing now is realizing there's new cognitive features within our environment. Joe Dispenza talks about this a little bit, but I go into a little deeper. Pattern recognition is how we cognize reality. If no one's taught us to see the pattern, we can't recognize it because there's nothing to recognize, So people just say recognize, but they've had to cognize it to begin with. So that's the teaching here. We're all growing ourselves up by realizing there's new cognitive features to understand the world by. And when you see a new pattern, the world becomes bigger. Like you can look at something and just see chaos, or you can start to see the forest for the trees. It's like that's the thing between left and right brain. The left brain just sees the individual things. The right brain sees the big picture. So do you see the trees, which is left brain, or do you see the forest? So we're moving out of left brain, just seeing the singularity of things, the individual, to seeing the big picture, which is really right brain. So that's where cognition and pattern recognition comes in, when we see more of the bigger picture. So with these UFOs appearing and disappearing, we're starting to understand the patterns of behavior, starting to understand its influence into our cognitive world. And that's how a bigger worldview starts to be understood, integrated, when you see the bigger picture of what's possible. If you're just seeing chaos without patterns, then the world is chaos. But if you look at it from a wider perspective, you start to see, well, maybe if these UFOs are here, they're showing up, maybe they're part of a bigger picture of reality. So why shut that out and say, no, they don't exist, nothing's here? So this is how the world changes. This is what fifth dimensional reality is the bigger cognition of something huge that we're just learning about. And it's who we are. We're part of the picture here, Karen. Who we are as human beings is equal to the sentient beings out there. So instead of projecting fear, which a lot of people do, oh no, the aliens are coming, they're going to take us over. That's just what you know. And that fear is only based on the known. What I say, and what my teacher Ramtha, when I studied with Ramtha, he would say, we're here to make known the unknown. So the UFO represents the unknown. And you can't fear the unknown because it's unknown. You're only fearing what you know of the known, projected it onto the unknown. No, the unknown is full of wonder, possibility, infinite potential, untold possibilities are available to us only in the unknown. That's why the ET presence represents the unknown, not the unknowable, but it pushes us towards a greater cognitive awareness of what's possible. And that's the thesis for my next book, Beyond Contact. But good. I'm glad, Shirley. Thank you, Shirley, for all your head nodding and everything like that. I really appreciate it. Can we show the group photo there, the group picture? Oh, because there was some on
Does everyone agree to coming on? Because I like to keep people's privacy while we're live streaming. But
well, I like to talk to people.
Yeah. Well, you can change your view so you're talking to everybody, though. You can change the view.
But I wanted to show people I was talking. It's up to them. Does anyone not want to be on screen?
Well, people can turn off their camera. Here we go. There we go.
All right. No, just because
Mark's got his hand up. Did you want to say something, Mark?
Yes, I do. Several times, Alan, you've referred or brought to our attention that we stand on the precipice from the old way of seeing ourselves and a newer version of that. And it reminded me of a book, which I did not read, but the title of it is Sapiens. And sapiens means a recent version of humanity, as opposed to Homo erectus and some of the previous early prehistoric versions of humankind. And so we are moving from the sapiens version, Homo sapiens, to a future version that I think that same book or that same author calls it Homo Deus. So we're moving from Homo sapien to Homo Deus. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is that you mentioned earlier about going back the last 70 plus years and the interplay between the government and the ET contact experience, and how that is a new horizon. And at the same time, when they tested the atomic bomb, July 16, 1945, that began the epoch, the geologic epoch called the Anthropocene. So we have a new geologic episode, the Anthropocene, which means what man has done to the face of the earth.
Right.
And then we have the new evolutionary version of mankind, moving from Homo sapien to Homo Deus. Now, Homo Deus will not look at the limited version of how we see ourselves, but it will be an integrated version of a higher version of ourselves. Call it angelic, call it soul, call it just a knowing part of ourselves. And in my own contact experience, it calls it the belief. We are the believers, and in the spectrum of our existence, there is a knowing part of our being. So the knowing and the believing will become integrated into this new version that you could call Homo Deus.
That's great. Other people have called it Homo Galacticus, where we'll be really understand we're part of the galaxy. And that, I think, what began in 2012 when the Mayan calendar was said it's coming to an end, but it wasn't the end of the world. It was the Mayan calendar was based on the position of our solar system within the galaxy. So we became more aware of us being galactic than just solar. And that was a big kind of change, a shift in our reality. The fact that, wow, we are a galaxy. And of course, we're part of a cluster of galaxies, part of bigger clusters, but we went from a smaller neighborhood, like you're not just, I don't know, where do you live somewhere? What state do you live in, Mark?
Florida.
Right.
Florida.
Yeah, right. So you're not just living in Florida, you're living in the US and you're living on the planet. So we went from solar to galactic. And so this next phase, because we're probably being visited by people in our galaxy, or maybe interdimensionally, but we're not just solar based. And that brings me to my other thesis about ETs, meaning our sun, this is my original thing, I did tell a few people this, that our sun calibrates our consciousness. So we can talk to each other because we're at the same conscious vibration, and we can look at animals, and because animals and they're all of Earth, and maybe if we met someone in our solar system, we'd understand them like people on Venus and Mars. But when you go outside our solar system and go to beings from another sun, their consciousness is calibrated at a different frequency. So when you're around these other beings from another galaxy, it's like trying to get Wi-Fi on an AM radio. It just, the frequency just does. So we have that potential because we are galactic, but the calibration of our consciousness makes it very difficult for us to be in the presence of these other beings. This is why it's so traumatic to meet the gray beings, because the calibration of their consciousness is so different, it distorts our reality. This is something even Darryl Anka said when he met Bashar, actually. He said he could not stand in the presence without losing his identity. So the idea that I'm putting out there is we have to practice awareness. We have to practice lucidity. We have to practice altered state in our dreams. Now, I don't mean plant medicine. I mean in our dreams, because when you're in your dreams, the calibration of consciousness changes and the assemblage point changes. So if we can practice lucid awareness, we'll have an easier time meeting these other beings on an even playing field, because the calibration of our consciousness will be more fluid. Yeah. That's my own little thesis about meeting. They don't mean to be scary. They just are, because they think so differently than us. Like, have you ever been around like a really crazy person? You start to pick up those thoughts, or like some high lama or something, you find this clarity. Well, when you're around beings, they emanate a field, and that field is disturbing to our field. And so we have to come to a place of sentience and lucidity if we're really going to make contact or beyond contact. So that's my own thesis. So we really have to practice awareness and do dream work and practice being conscious in these altered states, because that's why they come into our dreams, because they're on an even playing field. But when they appear to us, and some people have great experiences, but it's still an altered state. To be in the presence of these beings shifts your awareness. And the more you can practice that shift in awareness, the more ready we're to meet the other. And so that's just my own little theory. I'll put that out there, but that's also.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with you, Alan. Like we were talking about this the other day with the angel lady. We were talking about when you're not a vibrational match to someone's consciousness, be it the consciousness of the angels or spirit guides or galactic consciousness, you actually get sick. You can actually connect and then you get this headache because you're incongruent. So your default consciousness, your default setting is not a match. So we have to move that default setting out of judgment and criticism and, you know, life's a bitch and then you die sort of attitude.
No, it's all that, but also worldviews. It's not just, it's not just judgment. It's actually vibrationally, how do you see the world? And this guy, Donald Hoffman, have you heard of him? He says, time and space are doomed. They are illusions of the mind. The way the ETs understand time and space is totally different than how we understand time and space. That's why they could like jump timelines, because they know the secrets, and we don't even think that's an option to jump timeline. I mean, now, of course, people are talking about timelines, but we don't know how to do that. And so they can manipulate time and space, and we don't even understand what that means, but they can do that. So we have to give up all our attachments to the way the world really is, or we think it is, and the way time and all that is, so we can start to understand who they are on their level. It's like the old experiments. They would teach dolphins how to speak English, you know, but this is the work of John Lilly. And dolphins can produce 4 sounds at once. We speak one sound at a time. A dolphin makes sounds with their blowhole, with their teeth, with their nostrils, with their tongue, the clicking, so they can produce more. So they're much more sophisticated language-wise, and we're teaching them to speak in a very and it was very boring for them. And so we can, you know, they can understand us, but we can't understand them because they're much more sophisticated than us. If you ever see a dolphin's brain, it's much more developed. So we expect everyone to come down to our level, but it's like talking to your dog and barking at them. Is that how you talk to your dog? No. We're the dogs. We can't expect them to bark at us. We expect to learn the greater language and stop barking at each other, basically, you know, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. You know what? I'm going to stop the live now, and we're just going to have a conversation with the group that's not recorded and not live, so that people can say whatever they want to say and open up and not feel like they have to worry about being on camera.
Okay. But before we stop that, I just want to say tomorrow I'm talking to Linda Moulton Howe, 6 o'clock on this channel, this new reality channel. Look for my book, subscribe to this channel, like it, subscribe. I want people to get more viewers and buy more and sell more books, because I want this next book after this, I think is really going to be big. I'm also putting my book in the chat there. Okay.
Tell me the name of the next book. What's the title of the next book?
I think I'm calling it Beyond. This is called Making Contact, which is an overview. Next one's like Beyond Contact. Like, what do you say after you say hello? You know? Cool. It's like going on a date. We've had our first date. Now what happens?
Now what, Nick? Alan, thank you so much for being on the live.
Well, this is so much fun. I like talking to the inner sanctuary and all that.
Sanctuary.
Anytime.
Inner sanctuary. And I'll stop the live
Sanctum.
stream.
Oh, sorry, Sanctum.
Doesn't matter.
Yes,
Sanctuary.
I like being in the
I think the sanctuary is good too. Sanctum, sanctuary.
Inner Sanctum. Yes. Thank you for